This is Bette Davis. And this is Bette Davis. And this is Bette Davis. And this is Bette Davis with her daughter Margot, named after Margot Channing from All About Eve. And this is a lamp in Bette Davis's house. And this is Bette Davis's lamp in my house. And I'm going to share how I knew Miss Davis and how I have her lamp. So I'm going to share with you how Bette Davis's lamp that I'm looking at ended up in my kitchen and how I had a relationship, I'll call it a relationship of sorts with her for the last 10 years of her life. And why I'm sharing it, it's not just a egotistical, let me share that I knew Bette Davis story. It's because it just shows, reflects, and even reminds myself, no goal is too high if you persevere, if you have tenacity and you keep moving forward with it, and if it's somewhat realistic. I always wanted to meet Miss Davis because I thought she was the absolute role model of integrity. Oh yeah, good actress and all that stuff, but I just thought she was a hoot with great integrity. And to me, integrity is everything. Being true to yourself is everything. Anyway, I actually sent her a letter in college. We had to come up with a magazine concept, and way back in the day, I came up, I'm talking a long time ago, with the concept of a magazine for women over 39. I would have called it Radiance. It was kind of a big project you had to do at FIT, complete with layouts and photographers working with you, student photographers. I asked her, one of the sections I would have had in my magazine was to once a month do an interview with an established legend or someone established in the entertainment field. And I wrote her a letter. It's college. I'm a college student. I had been writing her for years, and I'm going to explain that in a minute as well. And so she knew who I was. But the bottom line was, there in my dorm, there's this message on my door: Buddy Davis called you. Buddy Davis. Buddy Davis, but it had a Los Angeles number. It was Bette Davis. And that was the first time that we had talked, and she 100% agreed to do a photo shoot for a college student. And I explained, I am at college level. I said, I'm fabulous, but I am at college level. Yeah, I was confident even back then. Of course, you have to be confident if you're asking Bette Davis to come do a photo shoot with you. And she was 100% willing. Let's do it. Let's get it on the books. And when she came to New York, which she was coming very soon, that would have been what we did. We would have done the photo shoot. Timing is everything. Sadly, when Miss Davis got to New York, that's when her health went into a major decline. I believe that's when the cancer first appeared, and then the stroke followed. But we were set to do it. That's the first time we came very close to meeting in person, but it started a conversational relationship, which I journaled every time we would talk. How I actually came in touch with Miss Davis is before I went to college. I must have been 17, 18, and I don't know why she appealed to me, but it wasn't the actress and the roles that appealed to me. It was this very eccentric woman I would see on talk shows with like a Buster Brown haircut. I just thought she was pithy, again, one of my favorite words, and fabulous. So for her birthday every year, I would do something funny or interesting. Things like, one year I did paper dolls of all her famous characters. One year I did, my best year was doing a kind of a film on the street, asking different people when I lived in New York, what did Bette Davis mean to them? I wish I could remember the different things. I did poems. One year I did a hat, a boater hat, and I put her face on the top, and a glove with a cigarette on the brim of the hat, which reminds me, I have a signed cigarette, complete with lipstick marks, from Miss Davis. And these things stood out year after year, and these projects seemed to get bigger and bigger. And one year, one of my favorites, she photographed in her home. I had done 2 cardboard cutouts of caricatures of Bette Davis, Miss Davis, and me, and you could move, I put little rivets so you could move the arms and whatnot, and she took a picture of it, and she put it on her dining room wall, and sent me the picture, and she set the table. It was the most charming, adorable, coolest thing in the world. She set the table so that it was with us two in the background. That's probably one of my favorite letters. I have a whole book of correspondence from her. I wish I kept the answering machine messages, or I wish I could find them, or I wish I could find an answering machine to play them on, because it's never something you get tired of. A phone message from Bette Davis. Anyway, year after year, I would do these birthday things, and it went from writing letters to thank me to additionally giving me a call. And that's when the phone calls kind of started. There's the lamp in the background. So one year, when The Whales of August came out, I was very good at crashing events when I lived in New York. That was one of my favorite things to do, crash events. So I crashed the Whales of August premiere, and she knew I was going. I don't know if I told her that I was crashing it. Her and her assistant, Catherine Cermak, who would later become a friend of mine, they knew I was going. And how fun to dish, but very professionally, with Miss Davis, who asked me on the phone. I think she even called me at work. I don't know. I was working for a fashion forecasting firm in New York, and she called me, and she asked, how was the premiere? What was the response? And she wanted to know, how was Miss Gish? And I said, she slept through the movie. I said, and at the dinner, I said, she slept at the dinner, which was after the movie at the Plaza Hotel. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm dishing the dirt with Bette Davis about Lillian Gish. Come on, that is pretty cool stuff. But she was always just a person to me, just a fabulous, great person who I would eventually meet in person. And that's a whole different story. But these birthday presents year after year, or these birthday letters, celebrations I sent her, that's what made me stood out, as well as a letter that 60 Minutes happened to print the week after they showed a rerun of a profile of her, and the fact that her daughter had written a very scathing book about her. And my letter was read on air, saying basically perhaps that daughter should take the profits of the book and put it towards a Mother's Day gift. And again, I got a phone call and a lovely, beautiful letter. But the lamp came from Catherine, her assistant. So after I lived in New York for about a dozen years, after a fire in my New York apartment, a fire, I thought, and I had changed from the fashion industry into the entertainment industry. I had a foot in the door job. I thought, I am going to LA. This is my time to pursue public relations, entertainment public relations, which I loved and I felt born to do. I loved being kind of a puppet master and helping get people on covers of magazines and things like that. Anyway, that's where I became friends with Catherine Cermak, who I guess we'd known each other through the letters that I had written. And she had been with Miss Davis for, I guess about a dozen years, maybe 10 years. I don't recall at that time. But Bette Davis had passed away, which, guess what? I felt as devastated when she passed away as if I had lost a family member, because she was such my role model of integrity, style, fashion. But mostly it came down to teaching me what I'm looking for in the core of a person, being true to themselves. At any rate, I would spend many evenings with Catherine. I wanted her to know I liked her for her, and not because of her relationship with Bette Davis, but we would sit on furniture that was Bette Davis's. I remember seeing this lamp in Bette Davis's apartment when I met her, and again, I'll tell you that story in a different video. And when Catherine offered me the lamp, I was, of course. I mean, she actually gave me a lot of stuff, but that's the only thing I really kept of any significance. I was invited to the auction of the possessions of Bette Davis, but I didn't need anything. I got everything I needed from her, just admiring her integrity. Anyway, so the lamp has become absolutely one of my favorite things. Index card laminated underneath that said it was Bette Davis's lamp. I don't think anybody's going to ever care as much as I did, but it just the whole story reminds me it's not the first and only time I've met someone I aspired to meet. Is if you persevere, if you have a goal, if you stick with it, if you use the right mannerisms, politeness, kindness, it can happen. And you never know where it will last. I mean, where it will end up. I mean, had she done that photo shoot with me, had we met earlier before her illnesses, who knows how different things would be. But I don't believe in what if. I only believe in what is. So I don't ever say, what if I had met her earlier? what if we did the photo shoot? I think, no, what is? It is what it is. I had a lovely relationship. I have phone calls, I have items, but mostly I have the lesson of how important integrity is, seeking it in other people, of course, seeking it in myself always, and just staying focused on a goal. Yeah, so that's my story of how Bette Davis's lamp ended up in my house.